Hey guys, it's Beth and welcome back to my channel. So long time no see. I know I feel like I start every video like that recently, but first I want to address the lighting. My boys are sleeping upstairs, so I'm not using my normal setup. It is really early. I am still drinking my coffee, so the lighting is a little bit horrible. I'm downstairs at my dining table doing my makeup. So this was the best that I could get right now. I have all the windows open over there, but it's still a little dark out, so just bear with me. I also want to address that a lot of things have happened since I've last uploaded. I actually got engaged and I got married. So I am a married woman now. So I thought it would be fun to show you guys how I did my makeup for my wedding. So that is what today's video is going to be. I'm going to show you all the products I used and just show you how I did my makeup. So if that sounds interesting to you, then let's go ahead and get started. Need a good old drink of coffee first. And now I'm going to go ahead and start with primer. So I used this Milani Soft Glow Complexion Enhancer. This is like a glowy moisturizer almost, and I use this on the perimeters of my face. So I didn't use it down the center. I'm going to be using another primer there, but I use this on the perimeters of my face to add some hydration and glow, because I am using a little bit more of like a full coverage kind of matte foundation. It's not super matte, but more matte than what I typically go for, and a lot more full coverage than I typically go for as well. And that other primer is the e.l.f. Matte Putty Primer. And I just have a little mini here. I bought this in a little trio set so I could try all the different formulas. And this still actually comes with a decent amount of product because you don't need a lot. So I just take some on the back of my nail. If I didn't have nails, I would just, you know how to grab a primer. And I just get that down the center of my face. Now, even though my skin is dry, I have dry skin, I still use this mattifying primer down the center because it was 115 degrees in Vegas. We got married in Vegas, we eloped, and that was so much fun. We had so much fun while we were there, but it was so hot that it was like we could not even be outside. It was unbearably hot. So as those primers are kind of like soaking in, I did go ahead and do my eyes just so I didn't have any fallout, so I could clean up the edges, because, you know, on your wedding day, you want to make sure everything is nice and clean. Normally on a regular day, I would do my foundation first. But like I said, because it was my wedding day, I wanted to make sure everything was nice and clean. I did do my eyes first, and I did prime my eyes with this e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer, and this is in the shade Rose. And I just used it on this brush and got that all over the lids. You do not need a lot of this. A little bit does go a long way, because I find if you use too much, then it will crease on you. And I did really want something to make my eyeshadows last as long as possible, but I also wanted it to add a little bit of coverage to make it nice and clean, but a clean, blanked out base to work with. And I am telling you that I absolutely loved how my makeup turned out on my wedding day. I honestly never felt more beautiful in makeup in my entire life, so I am excited to share this with you, maybe give you some inspiration if you're going to be getting married, or if you are going to be doing makeup on any bride or bridesmaids, because the bridesmaids also want their makeup to look good and last, right? All right, and then for eyeshadow, I actually used my Seint eyeshadows. This is all I brought with me as far as eyeshadows go on my trip, because this is literally everything that I need in one little compact. I also had like nice cleaned up, freshly laminated brows for my wedding day, so that is not what I'm working with today, but let's just use our imagination. All right, so the first thing I did was I took a brush like this. As you can see, it's kind of a fluffy crease brush that's a little more flattened. This is really similar to a MAC 217 or a Sigma E25, which I have a Sigma E25. Is it handy? No, it's not. This is just a random brand that I got in like an Ipsy bag or something, or a BoxyCharm. I believe Profusion, which is sold at Walmart, has a very similar brush to this as well. But I mean, I guess you can also use whatever brush that you are comfortable with. This is just what I liked to use for this step specifically. And then the first thing I did was I went in with the darkest color first. So that is this one. This is in the shade Cocoa. I will have a link down below where you can shop all of these eyeshadows and some of the other products that I will be using today. But this is the shade Cocoa. And I just got that on my brush. And what I did was I started to just press that. Sorry, I was too busy talking that I forgot what side I put my eyeshadow on the brush. Press that on the outer corner, and I just did a lot of pressing and building. And then you can kind of use like the very tip of that brush, since it is a little precise, and just kind of work that edge. I did do kind of a winged shape for my eyeshadow just because I think that is very flattering on me. I knew I wanted something kind of smoky, kind of sexy, but not too overdone. So this is what I ended up with. I wanted to practice my makeup a few times before my wedding, but I just never did. I did try out the foundation and stuff like that beforehand to see how well it lasted, but I never did get the chance to practice my eyeshadow look like I wanted to. So I just kind of knew the kind of color scheme I wanted to go to going in, and just kind of winged it, and it ended up beautiful. Okay, so that is kind of what we are working with so far. Keep in mind, we are not done. We are still gonna blend, but that is just kind of what I started with. So the next thing that I did was I took a fluffy brush and I went into this shade right here. I'm trying to get you to accurately see it. It is called Lullaby, and this is kind of a mid-toned mauve kind of brown shade, and I absolutely love this, especially on my brown eyes. It really makes my brown eyes pop, and it's not too cool. And I just use this as like a one shadow look a lot. It's one of my favorites that Seint makes. So I just take that on a fluffy brush and I started to work that into the crease. I also will take this over the brown to help and blend. But I'm just using a small amount at a time because I don't want to go in with just a bunch of eyeshadow and have nowhere for it to go. I really want to slowly build this up and make sure everything is nice and seamless. So as you can see, I'm starting to work it over the edge of that cocoa shade. But as you can see, that is already getting nice and blended. So pretty. I also want to mention that I am holding my brush really far back to apply the lightest pressure possible and really lightly blending in circular motions. And the nice thing about doing eyes first is that if things get a little bit messy, we can go in with our concealer, foundation, stuff like that, and help clean things up. So if you bring your shadow too far in this area, I'm going to show you how I like to clean that up. The next thing that I did was I took this shade. This is called Mama. And this is a light, cool toned kind of pink. It's not like bubblegum pink. It's kind of like a blush color, I guess is what I would call it. And then I just use that to really blend the edges of Lullaby. And then the next thing I did was go in with this matte cream shade called Cupcake and just got that underneath my brow. I use Cupcake almost every day. This is one of my favorite eyeshadows. It's like the most pigmented, perfect cream shade to use as a brow highlight because I don't really use shimmer under there too often. And then for the shimmer on the lid, I did use this shade. This is called Sabrina, and it is kind of basically the same tone as Cupcake, but it just has a little bit of a shimmer. It's not super metallic. It's not, I wouldn't say a satin. It has a little more shimmer than a satin eyeshadow would, but it's not like boom shimmer. I'm also going to be adding a little bit of sparkle on the top, so you just wait. But I wanted like this light shimmer across the lid as a base. So I just took that on a brush, and I'm gonna get that all across the lid. I always like to bring my shimmers like up in this area. I really like how that looks. All right, so now we are gonna take a break away from the eyes and we're gonna skip to the complexion portion. And the foundation that I used on my wedding day was this Maybelline Superstay Activewear foundation, and it is in a shade that is a little bit too light for me, but I'm going to show you how I corrected that and what I do every time that I use this foundation, because this foundation is really good. It has really nice coverage, and it is really, really long wearing, which I needed, especially in that heat. But yeah, I'm going to show you how I correct that. So what I do is I take my Seint Bella bronzer. That is this right here. This is one of the best bronzers of all time. And I take this fluffy brush. This is the blush and bronzer brush. These are both from Seint. So again, I will have the link down below where you can shop all of the Seint products that I'm using. So I took the fluffy end of my blush and bronzer brush just right into that bronzer, and I put a light layer of this bronzer all over my entire face. Really light layer. You don't want this to be thick. It's just really light, thin layer. All right, so now that we look absolutely insane, kind of like an Oompa Loompa, we are going to go in with this foundation, and I do have the shade 128 Warm Nude. This will probably be perfect for me in the winter time. So I just take a little bit of that. I actually took more than I wanted to. I only need one pump because this is such full coverage, and I just kind of dot that on my face. Then I take a beauty blender, and I know my beauty blender looks disgusting. I have a brand new beauty blender on its way. I just blend that right into my skin, and as you can see, once that blends in with that light layer of that Bella bronzer, it is like the perfect match for me. And I put such a thin layer of that Bella bronzer underneath that is not going to mess with the formula of my foundation, but it is just gonna add that little tint that I needed to make it just a little bit deeper to match my skin tone. All right, so that is the foundation all blended in, and as you can see, it is like the perfect match for my chest and neck now. I love that little trick. It is so easy. That way I didn't have to go and return this foundation and buy a new shade. Like, this will work for me during the winter. So if I can just do something really easy to kind of correct that shade, I would rather do that than have to go through the other process. All right, so the concealer that I used on my wedding day is the Makiage Fuck I'm Flawless. Sorry if you have kids around, but you know, that's what this is literally called. This is the concealer, and this is actually a really good concealer. It's not as full coverage as, say, like the e.l.f. Camo or like a Tarte Shape Tape. But what I love about this is that it is so smooth underneath the eyes, and it literally does not crease. And everything, literally every single thing that I have ever used in my entire makeup using life creases on me. This will not crease, which I love. And it is a little brightening, so I will take a little bit, just a tiny bit down the center of my face. I don't do that a whole lot, but I just want just a hint of brightness. Then again, beauty blender. Go in and blend her out. And this is where I like to kind of clean up the edge of that eyeshadow. So I just kind of use like that pointed edge of that beauty blender just to kind of get right up underneath that eyeshadow to really clean it up, just like that. And then I told you that I was actually going to show you how to clean up in this area if you did bring your darker shades a little bit too far in. I take a tiny bit of my concealer, like this was even a little bit more than I wanted to, so I just kind of tap that and then like tap it into my hand a few times so the minimal amount is on the brush, and then I go in here with that and just kind of blend over that eyeshadow. It's not going to take away the eyeshadow, it's just gonna kind of help blend that right into the skin so there's not like added darkness in this area because we do not want that. It's not gonna be like eyeshadow boom foundation. Like, it's gonna make everything look kind of seamless and all blended in together. And then before I go in with my powder, I do want to work with some creams. I used this bronzer on the day of my wedding. This is the Soul Body. This is like the sister company to ColourPop. Bronzing, medium dark face and body bronzing balm, and I love this. I could totally just go in with my Bella bronzer, but this has a little bit of a glow in it, and I wanted something a little more glowy because I haven't been using highlight lately, like highlighter on the tops of the cheekbones. So I just wanted to add glow in other ways, and this is what I used, and I love this stuff. I used the butt end of my beauty blender, and I kind of just boop, go like that and start blending that on. And it blends so easy with a sponge. It is such a pretty shade. It's not too warm, but it does add some warmth. But even though it is a bit of a warmer shade, I can still get a nice kind of a contoured effect from it. And then I just take that on the perimeters of my forehead, a little bit on the nose, not too much, but just a little bit. And then a little bit on the chin, a little bit down the neck, not too much again. And then for blush, I mixed 2 of my Seint lip and cheeks. I mixed a little bit of Frenchie with a little bit of pink grapefruit. So I just kind of boop, 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 you know, went back and forth and got that on the cheeks. I wanted something blushy, but not over the top. And these blend into the skin so seamlessly. And I am grabbing just a little bit at a time. These are really pigmented, so I don't want to go in like, you know, too hard. So I just kind of tap that in with the other end of my blush and bronzer brush. And then for powder, I used my Too Faced Born This Way Ethereal setting powder. I love this setting powder. I was using the Pretty Vulgar, the Powder Room loose powder for years. I love that, but it's not as accessible, so I did get the Maybelline Fit Me. I used to love that. I don't love that anymore. So my sister used this and recommended it, so I got it and I love it. I don't know if I love it as much as my Pretty Vulgar powder, but it is really, really good. So I just get some of that into the cap and take my sponge. If you guys watch me for a while, you already know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of swirling that into my hand to make sure it's nice and even on the sponge. And as you can see with this concealer, I have done a few other things and it has not creased, which is amazing. So I'm just going to take the powder that is on that sponge and start pressing that in to my under eye. Kind of taking my time to do this, really working that powder into my under eye to make it nice and set and smooth. And it's not going to make me look dry, but it is going to make sure everything is nice and smooth under there and is not going to be budging or going anywhere. And then I just do that same thing down the center of my face, just really pressing and working that powder in on the parts where I would typically get more shine. So that would be the T-zone for me. And then for the rest of the face, I just use this LA Colors Mineral Press Powder. This is a really good powder on a big fluffy brush, and I didn't use too much of this, just enough to kind of press in and make sure nothing is gonna budge and kind of set those creams in place. Wouldn't have to do this, but I feel like especially on your wedding day, if you want your makeup to last all day long, putting a light layer of powder all over the face is really going to help that staying power. So that is why I did that. All right, so we're going to move back onto the eyes. I'm going to take a little bit of cocoa on the other end of my eyeshadow brush and just get it on the very tip. We don't want too much of this. And I'm going to get that on the very outer corner of the lower lash line. I don't want it to be too dark, too intense. And then I'm going to wipe off my brush to get that cocoa shade off of there, and I'm gonna go in with Lullaby on that same end of my brush And I'm going to use that on the rest of the lower lash line to help blend that cocoa color in. Again, I love this eyeshadow shade. It just looks so gorgeous on brown eyes. And on the wedding day, I feel like it is so nice to have your eyes really pop and be the star of the show, because you know you're going to be looking into your partner's eyes as you're getting married. And then wipe my brush off again just to keep it easy. Use that same end. Gonna go back in with Sabrina, which is the shade we have on the lid, and I'm gonna use that to highlight the inner corner. And then the next thing I did is what I think made the eyeshadow look really special. I used this Super Shock shadow by ColourPop. This is one of my favorite Super Shock shadows. This is in the shade Ritz, and it looks like this kind of like beigey champagne with sparkle, but it really has almost like a translucent like nude base with like glitters in it. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of like color underneath that, but it just adds this like glimmer all over the lid, which I think is so pretty. So that is what I did. I just took it on my finger and kind of pressed that on to the lid. As you can see, it just adds that nice like wet sparkle. So freaking pretty. You can go without this if you don't like that look, but for my wedding day, I just wanted that little something special, you know? And then on my wedding day, I did wear some little individual lashes. They're not like the little tiny ones. It's like the 3 cluster kind of pieces of lash. I didn't bring them all the way in. I wore them kind of on the outer corners to add to that wing shape. I'm not going to do that today, but I'm still going to put the liner on. I did use like a brown liner. This one is from ColourPop. I don't even know the shade. It was the one that they did in collaboration with RawBeautyKristi. All the label and everything like rubbed off. But this is what I used. So I'm just gonna get that across the upper lash line just to add a little bit of depth along that area to make the lashes appear a little bit thicker, add to that smoky effect. I didn't wing this out or anything. And then for the lower waterline, I use this Wet n Wild Ultimate Brow Highlighter. I don't even think they make this anymore, but it's kind of like a bright pink kind of toned nude. I use this in the waterline just to add some brightness because we have such a smoky look going on here. So I'm just going to pop that in the waterline. And now I'm going to go off camera and do my brows and my mascara, and I will be right back. Alright, so brows and mascara are done, and I just feel like brows and mascara are something that is just so personal. Like, different things work for different people. But just in case, I did want to tell you what I did use. Today I actually used the Essence Lash Princess False Lash Effect waterproof mascara. This is a really good one. I would definitely recommend wearing a waterproof mascara on your wedding day because you never know, you might cry. I didn't cry because I was just so happy that like I just couldn't cry. Like, I was so happy. It was just awesome. But what I did use on my wedding day again was those little lashes, and this is the Voluminous Lash Paradise Waterproof. The L'Oreal Lash Paradise is what I actually used on my wedding day, but she getting a little dry, she getting a little clumpy. So I actually just ordered this on Amazon, and it's a fresh tube. So I built that up with 2 coats, and I think it is really pretty. I would totally trust this on my wedding day. Really good. All right, so what I use for filling in the outer portions of my brows was the Benefit Precisely My Brow Pencil, and this is just the fine brow pencil in the shade 6. So this is what I used on that. And then on the inner portion, to kind of add some like fullness and like little hair strokes, I use the NYX Lift and Snatch pen. Really good. I have the shade Espresso. And then for the brow gel, I use the Maybelline Brow Fast Sculpt Gel Mascara. This is just the clear. They do have different shades of this. I just used the clear one, kind of fluffed them up, and that is what I did for my lashes and brows. All right, so we are on the final portion of this video, and that is the lips. So what I did for my lips on my wedding day was I first, excuse me, let me kind of wipe some of that crusty off. I use the Kylie Cosmetics lip liner, and this is in the shade Iced Latte, and I'm really sad because I'm pretty sure they're discontinuing like everything in her line and like reformulating and rebranding or something like that. So I don't know if this is available anymore, but there is a dupe for this. It is the Milani, oh goodness, I forget what it's called. I'll probably like pop it up on the screen. And I will say the shade and everything, but it is a really good dupe. I think I have that one upstairs. It's really good, but this one's a little bit older than that one, so I've been trying to work through this one before it expires, and since it's like discontinued, I want to use her up. I just slightly overlined my lips with this. You all know I love a good overline. But on my wedding day, I didn't want to be like too overlined. Sometimes I go a little bit overboard, which I like the look of, but on my wedding day, I didn't want to like look back and be like, girl, what is you doing? You know what I mean? And then I started to kind of fill that in just a little bit. Not all the way, just a little bit, like towards the edge, kind of make that line nice and thick. And then for the actual lip color, I use this. This is the Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink in the shade Revolutionary. I knew I wanted to use one of these on my wedding day. I had this white dress with like these beautiful like mauve flowers all over it. I felt stunning, like 10 out of 10 in that dress. So I used this on the lips. So I use this. I just got it on the bottom lip. And as you can see, it's like a nice pinky mauve color. Smash my lips together and just really blend it into that lip liner. All right, so this is the finished look. This is how I wore my makeup on my wedding day. I did not add a gloss on top or anything because I wanted this to last all day, and it did. My makeup at the end of the night looked beautiful still. It lasted so well. I felt so beautiful in this makeup. I think it's really simple, really easy to achieve, but still a little bit special and a little bit more elevated than your natural everyday look. I felt beautiful. Paul thought I looked absolutely beautiful. So it was just a really good day. I loved my makeup and I just felt really good. I will try to get over to the window so you can actually see what everything looks like a little bit more accurately. But yeah, I really loved this makeup. All right, so as promised, I thought I would come over to the window so you can more accurately see the shades of everything, see the eye look a little bit better and how everything is looking. I absolutely love this. Again, you can add some highlighter on the tops of the cheekbones if you want, but I haven't been doing that. So that is how I had my makeup for my wedding day. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful, maybe learned some tips and tricks along the way on ways you can do your wedding makeup or do makeup on another bride or bridesmaid. But that is all I have for you today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!